course, started off in India. I went to a Jesuit school all my life, and then I studied science, and I went to England as a teenager. Before I was 18, I went into engineering school in London and finished before I was 21, kind of precocious move, and worked in England for 2 years, then all over the place, trained, and went back and worked in India, worked in Nepal, building diesel plants in the Himalayas in the 60s when there was hardly anything there. And then I came back, and because I had worked in the nuclear power plant, I got a job here. I came to Canada. I was hired by Atomic Energy of Canada. Spent about 14 years with them and developed an interest in nuclear safety. And then, lo and behold, Ohio State University was interested in me. They sponsored me and brought me here. Nuclear engineering department where you taught sponsored me, brought me here. And I came to the Ohio State University. And of course, I worked with you and taught, and then got hired by AEP when they moved to town. And basically, what happened is I ran into you one place at one time and found out about tech transfer. So later on, I quit my job and came back and did my doctorate with you as my advisor. And then I did a one-of-a-kind PhD and then moved on to teach strategy at Franklin University and at Autobahn for 14 years, and then retired 2 or 3 years ago.
Do you see some technology or perhaps fear that there will be a technology coming over the horizon that could have a negative impact on how we in the world live with each other or in community live with each other?
I think so. I think not only might come over the horizon, is already over the horizon, and we're not in it yet, but it is rolling towards us. And that is one part of the life sciences where we try to change or try to connect insentient matter with life. And, it's been popularly done in science fiction books and movies and stuff. But today, we can take life. As we have shown, people kill people, and the life force is removed from the body and from other creatures. But we have never, ever been able to, quote unquote, breathe life in, because that is a divine matter. And now we are at a place where it appears as though we can create artificial life. It's a wrong impression, but that's the feeling that we have. And the advances in the sciences make it possible for us to do things which may be clever, but are certainly not wise and downright dangerous. So I think there's an aspect of that life science which I think we should be careful about.
You must have some ethical belief about this, otherwise you wouldn't be concerned about it. And the question is, well, where did that come from? Did it come from your mom and dad or your grandpa or your religion? And obviously you're living it because you think strongly about it. But can you tell us a little bit about how you think is right and wrong and where it came from?
Several parts to the question. Of course, I'm a product of all of the above. My bringing, my socialization, my religious thinking, and my moral and ethical thinking. Couple of things. One, I want to make a distinction between ethics, morality, spirituality, and religion.
Good.
The purpose of religion is to point us to our spirituality. Our spirituality is in essence who we are, and our ethics and morals have to do with how we treat each other and live in society. And they're not completely separate. They're all kind of together. I have spent a lot of time, and when I was studying with you and looking at technology itself may be neutral, but people who use the technology and the use to which we put it has to be guided by our thinking. And we have to be wiser, not more shrewd. Intelligent people can cause a lot of destruction, wise people don't. And so really one of the phrases that you used when I was your student was, you should never drive faster than your headlights. So, because you come into trouble. We are not wise enough to know everything there is to know about life and the mystery of life. And therefore, we tinker with something we don't understand, and we interfere with the natural evolution of things. We can go from genetically modified foods to now manipulating human beings, designer babies, and also tinkering with the incidents of life itself. And I think there is a real great danger that we are going to create more harm than good. So I think science has given us a lot of benefits, which I would be the last person to deny since I trained as a scientist. But I would say there's something more than that, and there is a little voice within, what the Quakers call the little voice within, the conscience. And that conscience is part of our spirit. And I think those of us who have not smothered our conscience by money or greed or whatever, and our conscience is still alive, I think that conscience is an inner guide. It's our own GPS from the inside. And I think people from all faiths, from all walks of life, have this because they are essentially have that spirit within them, that goodness within them, because we are essentially good. So I think every time I come across these things, a little part of me inside says, be careful here, be careful here. You have as a human certain limited abilities, and you should not cross them without proper wisdom. There is order in this universe, and underneath the chaos, even with chaos theory, chaos is only relative to a stable thing. So there is an order, and we may call it by different names. We may call it by superior power. We may call it God. We may call it X factor. We may call it unified theory. But the thing is that we don't understand it. And since we don't understand it mentally and intellectually, then messing with it and trying to improve on it, something we don't understand, I think is the height of arrogance. I think it's the height of human arrogance. And I think we should spend our time trying to understand what it is, who we are. And then we'll understand who everything is, and we'll understand nature, and we'll understand that we are a part of the universe, not apart from the universe. And I think this thinking that we are apart from the universe and that we can manipulate it to get what we want is a very dangerous form of ego.
In view of this kind of concern you have, what have you thought at all about how you might or how anyone might begin to make sure that we don't see beyond the headlights, and we do play a role in how that technology is introduced into the culture? Have you thought about that at all?
Yeah, but I mean, there are three time spans: the short, intermediate, and long. Of course, in the long term, we have to educate everybody and ourselves, and education is a long-term process, as you know. So we have to transfer what we know or convey what we know and tell people that these fears are not fuddy-duddy fears. These are not concerns born out of ignorance, but concerns that come from examining what happened in the past, so that we don't make these mistakes, that we watch out for the ditches, you know. In the intermediate term, I think we need to have a dialogue between the scientists and the business folk, since I went into business, because scientists are very much interested in the pure science of it. But what happens is when you bring money into it, and I've been in business and I've taught business, that it can bend and twist and subvert the science for money. And money isn't the end all. So I think this idea we have to convey to business educators and business people, and there are many good ones, by the way, most of them are good, that we can make money without violating the laws of nature, that we have to work with Mother Nature, not against Mother Nature. So we need to do that in the intermediate term, have these forums and dialogues with them in whatever way we can. But in the short term, you're right. I think this kind of talk, blogs, articles, and questioning, and put it on the table and kick it around.
Yeah.
Debate it. I'm not saying we should suppress anybody's voice, but I think put it out on the table. Don't keep it in the closet, and let's not get into us and them, and realize that the change that this can make, it could wreak havoc with everything. It can destroy us from the inside. So it's better to bring it out and say, listen, these are very powerful things you're talking about. These are fundamental issues of life. What is life? And I think it's too important to not do anything about it. So whatever you suggest and whatever I am willing to help with, let's put it on the table and let's kick it around. Let's examine it. And you don't have to be an expert to have an opinion. We know that, right? Just because we can doesn't mean we should. I think we should use technology to help us keep technology in perspective.
Right.